Hi, and welcome to the Team Liquid Bud Light Show. I'm your host, Ben Zieper, and I'm here joined by our Academy coach, the famous caster, the man from the land down under, Jake Tiberi Spawn. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. In fact, you pronounced my last name incorrectly, Ben.
Well,
it's pronounced Tiberi.
Tiberi?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah.
You're Italian?
Yeah, I am Italian.
How did you end up in Australia?
So my dad's dad came over just after World War II. Obviously not a lot of jobs in Italy at that time, so bought a ticket, came over on a boat with his brothers, and then my dad was born in Tasmania.
And that's in Australia.
Yeah.
I learned something right now.
No worries.
I'm excited to have you here because I know you are very skilled at your maneuvers for opening beers. You have a bunch of different ways of doing it, and you've taught me one or two in the past.
Yep. Normally they're very violent though, and I feel like the set might break if we choose like some of the more outlandish ways to open a beer.
But you're the talent, Jake.
Okay, so I can break the set.
You can break the set. Yeah.
All right,
you can do whatever you want. You're a superstar.
I'm getting some looks from off camera that might not be the case.
Well, that's your first issue. Don't look off camera. You know.
Just gaze at you.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm forgetting all my training right now.
I was hoping you could teach me a new way of opening these beers. You told me that you know to open beers using a spoon.
Yes.
So I'm going to grab a spoon real quick.
Yeah, grab a spoon.
We have a few different types of spoons. We have an ice cream scooper.
I don't think I could use that one, but I might be able to.
This isn't for the beer thing. I just want to get ice cream later.
All right.
We have a ladle.
That one I definitely cannot use.
Okay. So far your tricks are fallen.
I can probably use that as well.
Okay, let's see how you do it. And then I would like if you could teach me too, because I don't know how to do this.
So generally what you do is you wedge it under the lip and you use your thumb or like a part of your finger as like a lever. So what you're going to do is you're going to jam it under the lip and then you're going to pop it off and your thumb's going to hurt like a bitch. Yeah, but typically it should work. And this is what I was saying.
Oh!
Got mine.
We'll go to break real quick. I will obviously open it.
And then the other way you can do it, if you don't want to do it like that, which is where the table might get broken.
That's a production standpoint
is
issue.
You just hold it underneath it, like this. Oh, the spoon's not long enough, so you can't actually do it. But then the other way I normally do it is on a table.
Yeah, that's the way you taught me. But now I'm not going to do the spoon trick.
I can't do it on that table.
Well,
but it's nearly off.
We're going back to the spoon trick.
We're going back to the spoon trick?
Well, thank you for doing it for me.
No, that's fine, Ben. This is how... The other reason it's not coming off, Ben, do you want to know why these beer lids were really hard to get off?
Uh-oh, why?
Because Bud Light is, of course, ladies and gentlemen in the crowd, a twist top. So it's very hard to pop a beer on a twist top. But cheers.
Cheers to Bud Light. So it's a little weird right now that you're here because your team is scrimming right now. They're in the other room. Who's in charge?
So actually, funny you asked that because Inori, who was obviously our substitute jungler when John or Armao was playing for the LCS team, I think has a really great mind for the game. He's a little bit older, has been around the block as well, has played LCS for a couple of teams and obviously won a couple of splits of Academy with Cloud9. So he's actually in charge right now. And whenever I leave someone else in charge, I say, please treat them better than you treat me. Because normally what happens when you leave the room, right, is you say like, listen to your older brother like it was your father. But they don't listen to me anyway, Ben. So I was like, just please treat him a little bit better than you treat me normally.
And how do you think it's going?
It would be going good. Yeah. The team's actually in really, really good form. We came off last week with a 4-0.
Congratulations.
Inori has been stepping into like a really good hybrid role between like assistant coach as well as a couple of positional coaching. He's fitting into that well. We've obviously got the 6-man rotation still happening with Dokla and Jenkins. And overall, I think those changes would have taken some time to happen. But when they happen in such a crucial point of the season, it's kind of you got to make it work. And so everyone put 110% into making it work, and I think it's going well.
You've had a really crazy split that you've had to, and so has the LCS team, but you've had to adapt like crazy, and I would just love to hear what happened from your perspective and how it's been to have a 7-man roster when it never seemed like it was going to be that way from the beginning of the split.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Jat and I built the team, and we built the Academy team together, we always talked about, next man up mentality. And what we wanted, and actually Core JJ is one of the players that says it so well. He says, I want the best support playing for Team Liquid. Now, obviously, as players, you want that best support to be you. But he's like, but if Ayla is in a situation where he's the best support for Team Liquid. Like, he should be playing the games.
Totally.
And that next man mentality, up mentality, is what we really pushed hard on the academy guys. We actually scrimmed between the main roster and the academy roster quite a fair amount, like at least one best of 5 a week. So the guys are really familiar with each other. And when this split happens, it's like, you don't ever expect to have like Jenkins go to academy, to LCS, and then to have, Armao to also go to LCS. But when it does happen, you have to treat it as a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like, the reason anyone is in academy, I hope, is to be an LCS player. So when it happens, it's actually a good problem to have as a coach.
Totally. And they were also 2 of your more senior players. So
they were my 2 senior players.
You lost some leadership, I'm sure, in that regard. Or has Dokala's seniority been able to step in as well, and in Ori's?
Not necessarily. So like the way, and I'm sure that people would have been able to see this if you watch Team Liquid Academy play Split 1.
Which we all do.
We played for the King, and the King was John, Armao. So like a lot of our comps were crafted around getting Armao advantages, playing very heavily for jungle. All of the lane priority was like paid into the jungle, and then John would come out of jungle with a CS lead on champions like Hecarim, Udyr, these kinds of picks, and we'll be able to steamroll team fights, right? To the point where we're playing like Lulu top, Seraphine in a couple of different roles. Obviously, the patch changed as John was going to the LCS as well. But what I knew from last year when I was on Order is that Harry and Ayla are also really competent at being able to run a team. So it was really fortunate for me because I just kind of kicked the team back into last year gear, which is, Bill does a lot of the shot calling, Ayla does a lot of the shot calling, and Harry plays like the star player role. And I think that Harry, for one, is very happy to be back in that situation, I think, and has been showing that he's like a pretty classy player.
So do you think your team was forced to play different play styles now that they lost John for part of the split and had to adapt as well?
Absolutely. And then the thing was, when John came back, John was like, wow, the game's actually so much easier to play because it was less onus on him being like the main carry. So now we can play that way, of course. We can go back to playing that way. But the meta has shifted a little bit, like a lot of bruises, a lot of like Rise and things in the mid lane. So like Harry's able to still have a pretty good situation there. Been playing some Yasuo and things like that, which he obviously likes. And then kind of the unspoken person out of all of it is Yun, who has quietly just been steadily improving, steadily getting better. Obviously, youngest member of the team as well. His laning phase is looking a treat at the moment. So he's also able to be played around a little bit more than maybe where we were at the start of the season.
I feel like we're always talking about, especially at Liquid, we're always talking about how our academy team and our LCS team are so integrated. But I also think that every org probably says the same things and thinks that as well. But if anything, this split we've really seen, and just from our own hands-on experience, you can see that these teams are really integrated. How unique do you think that is to the ecosystem in the LCS right now?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly unique, right? Like, I don't know of many other teams that, when they finish a game on Sunday, they turn around to the academy players and say, hey, you want to go get dinner together? So it's like not even integration necessarily just within the team itself. It's like outside of the office and things like that. And that's what happened. Core took us all to Korean barbecue the other night, and it was a really good experience. And I think that integration like really has to be pushed by coaches and by, management. And I think that Dodo, Jad at the start, now Cold, yourself, obviously me, because I'm on the academy side, have been really like pushing the fact that, it has to be a squad. And we have to be willing to share information and be able to give each other good data and then be able to have good relationships. And I think that we've done a really great job of it. And it's to the point now where, Alfari talks about it a lot, but if he's unsure of a matchup, he just grabs Jenkins or grabs Dokala. They play one-on-ones. When, my bottom lane's unsure of a matchup, Core and Tactical are always there to play 2-on-2s. If solo queue's a little bit laggy, Core will grab everyone and they'll play in-houses against, maybe some Korean pros from Latin America or something like that. I think that there is just like a really great integration between the two teams that has happened pretty naturally.
I think so as well. And I do want to give you immense credit for that because I don't know if everyone knows this, but you're in charge of the developmental program.
Yeah. I think I'm like the head of development at Team Liquid or something like that, which is like scouting included. And that's a really cool job, actually, because it allows me to sit down in the off season and watch a ton of tapes. And one of the things I actually miss about being a shoutcaster is like having my finger on the pulse of like every region in the world and like being able to say like, oh, I remember when this guy actually played in like, the Latin American final and he didn't win, but he like absolutely popped off. Or do you remember this player that used to play in the LEC? Now he's in, actually the CIS league and he's actually doing really well. Or my favorite one was like, Fofo, who was from the LMS. Now he's at RA over in the LPL and he's doing really really great. So I think overall, like that's a part of the job that I really enjoy, and being able to take that and put it towards younger players, obviously, that could potentially be good for Team Liquid in the future is really fun and a unique opportunity. And if you do it well, hopefully it gives us a really big advantage.
Another person that's been instrumental in that from our conversations is Core JJ. I mean, you've told me that Core is someone that wants to have input on who's on the academy team and how we're playing and how we're scrimming. Can you tell me what it's been like to work with Core, someone that's so esteemed in this field?
I think the thing about Core was like he wanted to be a part of the process, but it never felt like he wanted to take over the process. And I'll give you an example. When we were scouting 80 carries, he came to me and he said, who do you think is good from North America? Because obviously I'm biased. I've played with all of them in solo queue. And I said, well, I think these couple of guys are the people that we're looking at. And he said, okay, I want to duo queue with them. And I want you to watch. And I want you to be in Discord while it's happening. So it's just like little pieces of help like that. Because obviously when you're scouting a player, you can see their mechanics. You'll ask for a point of view or something like that. You'll be able to see how they click. But listening to them talk, listening to Core kind of challenge their ideas on laning and being able to see how sophisticated they are in some of these concepts, it just gave me like a little bit more information. And ultimately, like, was really great for Yun, because that was what impressed us about him so much, is like his understanding of the game from a bottom lane perspective. And then someone like Harry as well. Core was like obviously skeptical about a mid laner coming from Oceania. It's not a region that has extreme mid lane depth, and was willing to watch, all of his playoff run last year, give me feedback on what he thinks he needs to improve, give me some pros and cons about bringing him over versus some domestic mid laners, and has been really supportive of the academy system overall.
Why do you think he does that?
I think he wants to win ultimately, right? And I think what they recognized at Team Liquid last year, and I've had this conversation with Steve and Dodo and things like that, is if you don't have a great academy team that you can scrim towards the end of the season, you put yourself at a significant disadvantage. And I think that during Split 1, that was one of the advantages the main team had, was being able to scrim us. Even though we bombed out of Proving Grounds, we were a really good team.
One with Arena, or Northern Arena, sorry.
Northern Arena, we won that one, and we came second during regular season with like equal win-loss ratio with Cloud9. So we're obviously a good team, but we didn't have a great tournament. But we were able to scrim against the main team. We were able to give them really good data once again. So I think that's one of it. And then the other thing is, I think like Core genuinely cares about North America's ecosystem. Like I've talked to him before about, what does it look like after you stop playing Core JJ? And, whether it's becoming a coach, whether it's still staying involved in the scene, you can tell that he really, really cares about it. So I think that it also fulfills like a passion of his, like scratches an itch. He actually did psychology at college before he was becoming a League of Legends pro. So I think there is something about young players and mindset that he really likes.
What did you study in college again?
University,
sorry.
Yeah, at university. I did biomedical engineering before I deferred and took a gap year, in which I traveled all over Southeast Asia. Then I did history and literature with a minor in linguistics, with the hopes of becoming a professor of literature. But there was a book called Crying of Lot 49. I don't know if you've ever read this book.
I don't know if I've ever read a book.
But there's a book called The Crying of Lot 49. Ladies and gentlemen, do not read The Crying of Lot 49. I had to do a paper on The Crying of Lot 49, and I just finished working an overnight at my job, and I came home, and the paper was due in maybe like 12 hours. So I lay down in the bath to read The Crying of Lot 49 at 6 a.m. I woke up to a very wet Crying of Lot 49 at 9:30 a.m. And I walked into my mum and dad's room with a very wet Crying of Lot 49 and said, I'm dropping out of university again. And so that was how my stint at Deakin University in Melbourne, Australia, for 3 years. It was only a 4-year course. It was like the last month of 3 years. I had like maybe two semesters left. It came to a spectacular conclusion, Ben. And I even got an email from my university professor for history, because I was sitting on like a distinction average that was like, just don't do literature then. Like if you're not enjoying the literature bit of it, just do a history major. Like there's lots of successful people with just a history major. And I was like, nah, this isn't for me. And I went and worked in finance.
I can totally see in your life and the way you speak and the way you are and the things you're passionate about, how you could be interested in those things, because our conversations about League very much are you as a historian informing me about things that no one else knew about. I don't remember what player we were talking about the week you got here, but I was like, yeah, this guy's never won anything. and you're like, well, he's never won a world championship, but he won this tournament and this tournament. Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, I can't remember we were talking about like Clear Love or someone like that.
Yeah, I think it was
like,
Clear Love.
Yeah, it was MSI and like one of the most winning players of all time in the LPL.
Yeah.
And I love that because like when people are like, oh, Clear Love always sucked internationally. It's like, yeah, well, he did apart from the times that he didn't, like IPL 5 on Team WE, MSI 2015, those kinds of things.
But you just have like a regular dude next to you to give you the Reddit takes and you to be like, no, you're an idiot.
And that's cool because like also it's really important to know like what, Timmy from Reddit or Susan from Twitter actually thinks about these players.
And I talk to both of them every day, and they give me stuff to talk to you about.
100%.
It's nice to have you here, and you weren't here for a long time. I don't know if people know, but you were coaching from Australia for a little while. And I'm sure everyone has asked you, like, was it hard to coach from Australia? And I actually want to know if there's anything you miss about coaching remotely.
Yeah, actually there is. And it's going to be the thing that everyone on Reddit is like either like, you're a liar or like cringe, right? But for those that don't know, Australia is a day ahead, but 7 hours behind in like time zone wise. And I don't know if that makes any sense for people, right? But scrims start at noon. So that means scrims started at my time, 5 a.m. the day before, right? Or the day after. So I used to wake up at 2 a.m. And now that's a strange thing to miss, Ben, getting out of bed at 2 a.m. But the reason I miss it, and for those that don't know, I've got two little boys, Henry and Jasper.
His sons, he should elaborate. He doesn't just have two little boys.
Yeah, no, I created them. But anyway, so like I have Henry and Jasper right at home and obviously a beautiful partner, Jenna. And when you start work at 2 a.m., you get to finish by noon. And that gives you a big chunk between like noon and 5 p.m. to be a family man. And being a family man is really important to me. I love my sons like very, very dearly. And when Jenna and I were talking about taking this job, one of the big pros was, we live about an hour from Melbourne CBD. And Jenna was like, okay, if you take a normal job, like starts at 8:30, you're going to have to leave the house about 7, which is when the boys get up. And then you're going to finish work at about 5:30 is typical in Australia. You're going to take an hour and a half to get home. You're going to get home at like 7. So 7 till 7 is generally what, a lot of working people do. You're just not going to see your children. So even though I'm in America at the moment and I'm not seeing my children, it's like the reality of Australia is you work for 48 weeks of the year. You have 4 weeks annual leave. And during that time, you're probably not going to see your kids apart from weekends. Whereas Team Liquid have given me a really, really great life where after noon, like Dodo and Jat and Cold and everyone else that I've worked with here, they've just been like, go see your kids, go be with your family. Like if stuff's exploding, we'll reach out and we'll let you know. But otherwise, go be a dad. And what that means is I get to go to bed at like 6 p.m., which is really, really nice. So I go to bed where my kids pretty much go to bed. And then I get up at 2 and I start grinding VODs and watching things like that. And then I go into scrims and I do a day of scrims. And then obviously I still work between 12 and 5 because everyone that's in esports is a workaholic. So we do something, right? If the LCK is on or something like that, Jasper and I will sit down and watch some League of Legends together. And that's kind of my life and it's a really great life.
And do your kids understand what you do?
Yeah, Jasper does. Absolutely. So Jasper has autism. So he is like kind of obsessive about a couple of topics. One of those topics is space, as I'm sure that you're aware. We've talked about a lot. So like my son knows like all the planets in our solar system, knows the closest galaxy, closest suns, the moons of the planets.
That's incredible.
The asteroids and a bunch of other stuff, right? But one of the things he grasps really, really quickly is like, obviously Earth is a ball and there's different countries on it. And he knows that I get on a plane from Australia and fly to America to do League of Legends, which is what happens on Dad's computer. So like he's really, really aware of like kind of what I do. He's not aware of like what coaching is and the intricacies of the games, but he's very aware of like why I go, why I do what I do. Henry's 9 months old, which is, I affectionately call it like the blob stage. Like they're kind of like just a thing.
Yeah.
So he has no idea.
He's not going to remember that you were here.
Exactly. Yeah. He has no idea.
Do you feel like it's your duty as like a leader, or do you feel passionate about working with young people because you're a father at home and then you come here and you're, in charge of 7 young men who, need a lot of coaching inside and outside the game?
Yeah, and more than that, really. Like, because like, for example, like I love talking to people like Eddie and stuff like that. Even the young guys from like the main team, I think I have a really good working relationship with. And I think that is one of the big draws for coaching for me personally is that I think about myself as like a 19 to 22-year-old, white male, and the stuff that I was going through. And I can't remember who says it, but someone, I think it, like the front of our brains are like very, very squishy and soft and underdeveloped, and like the stupid stuff we used to do, and being able to like guide people through that part of their life, like I think is like a privilege. So I'm really happy to be there for my guys.
Is there a weird balance where sometimes you need to advise them to do something that's not best for them for work, but as a friend or as a mentor, you realize that maybe it's what they need to hear?
I obviously, yeah, like hard conversations happen all the time. And I think that people lead diverse and different lives. And obviously, I'm not out there to tell anyone to do what they should do because I don't know. But like, I like to share my experience about what I used to do and things that I've seen work with other individuals and try and pass on as much knowledge as I can and try and guide or mentor or coach, or a lot of the time just listen to like what they're going through.
Are you the oldest member of the team? I forget.
I am now, yeah.
Nice.
I think so. So I'm obviously 30, nearly 31. So,
wow.
Yeah, boomer. Old man spawn. As like Jan and Eddie like to call me old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Jan's relationship with you because he like I can't think of a better way to put it other than like Naruto and Kakashi. Like he thinks that like he is going to prove to you one day that he is the greatest of all time, and he doesn't recognize sometimes that you want him to be the greatest.
Correct. And I always say that to him. You really got to stress for the Jan. Like, Jan, we're on the same team. Like, we all want the same thing here. We're all wearing Team Liquid gear at the moment. So, like, yeah, I think that, but he's really, really driven, right? And so I respect that. And it's honestly, like, I always say to Jenna, like, it's like having a bunch of little brothers. Like, I have a little brother at home named James. But working with, people like Jan, Eddie, Bill, Harry, it's like having just a bunch of little brothers.
Not everyone watches Academy, but I think that you have a group of exceptional young men who give it their all and are incredibly kind and great people to have around.
So Bill is like really organized. So like normally, like if you want to go out or you want to do something, like Bill will like be the person that like Young
Bill's
will be
Isla.
like Isla. Yeah, Bill's like I want to go get food. Young's like I want to go get food, and Ayla's like where are we going? How are we getting there? Like he's the kind of person that will like organize stuff, very organized, very meticulous.
And is he like that in game as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Harry is like if you have any leftover food, he'll eat it. But he's also like, he's just really, really fun. Like Harry is like infectious. Like everyone has that friend that like you're around them and you start smiling.
Yeah.
Like that's Harry for a lot of people. And like, he's a really big mood setter. So when he's upset or annoyed in game, like everyone can tell straight away because he's normally such a happy-go-lucky guy. Jan is a little brother that complains a lot. He is someone that, will challenge you and ask you to do better and get better. And be pretty straightforward and to the point a lot of the time. And I think that
he's like that with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the perfect coach. Like I think that I'm a good coach. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't put myself forward for a job I didn't think I could do. But he will challenge me on things like that. Bottom lane knowledge definitely wasn't my strong suit before this year, but I've had to go away and put a lot of time and effort in to talking to smarter people than me about it and, come back and be able to deliver some stuff for him.
Jan has an incredibly big heart. And I've told you this before, but he is, I think, the only person who every single time he is ordering something will go up to people and be like, do you want this? Do you want boba? Do you want boba?
Yeah, no, he's a really good kid like that. And he also like, we have like a system where we pay each other back. He never accepts money from everyone. Like he just like buys stuff.
So maybe he's really sweet and financially irresponsible.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. John's like the grouchy old man that isn't actually all that old. He's only 22. And he's also like, he sees the game in such a funny way. And like when he explains it to you, he'll give you like a shopping list. Yeah, but all that should have happened, we should have run out of base. Then we should have dropped a ward. Then we should have been able to get this objective. Then with that objective, we would have been able to snowball through mid lane. And then because their mid lane can't play, then we can always attack their top side, and that should have just been over. It's like, yeah, but John, we didn't get the first objective, so you can't do the other 15 things. John is also one of those players that like, he is the hardest worker in the room. If you ever check his solo queue numbers for those at home, like he plays so much solo queue. If you ever check his rank, he's always the highest rank on the team.
I think he's the highest ranked Academy player right now.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He's like been ranked 3 to 7 like the entirety of the year, right? Whenever you go into the office, he's there playing. Whenever you talk about a certain part of the game, he's like, oh, did you watch that game the other night from XYZ? And did you see how they approached that problem? He is like, he's obsessed with League of Legends.
And you forgot our man in the top lane, Thomas.
2 men in the top lane.
2 men in the top lane.
Yeah, so Bobby J is like, he's also big heart. And he's like a super sweet person. Like Thomas was like kind of what you explained to Jan, but to me, like when I first came over, I was obviously missing my children, my partner, things like that. He would always offer to buy me like cookies or like go out with me and, you know, do different things. So like I really love Thomas. He's a super great person. And then Dokla is kind of like this charismatic guy that was obviously started as an outsider, came in and like just made the team, like his team really, really quickly, integrated super well. I knew Dokla actually from his OS days. He used to play on a team in Oceania called Sin Gaming. I think it was his first professional team he played on with actually one of my good mates, Juves, who was the captain of the team at the time. And he also played with FBI and Ryoma.
Oh, wow.
So he was on a really, really good team of young players. So I've known Dokla for a bit.
Did he remember you from back then?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's nice. That's nice.
Remember
you. Who could forget you? I'm sorry, Jake. Yeah.
Remember me? Are you talking to me?
Thomas's time in the LCS was really exciting to watch, and I think all of us were just happy for him to have this opportunity. You know, it was.
Does he still have the highest win rate in the LCS?
I believe he does, because he went 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 1-2. I think
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a great feat that, you know, a lot of people aren't talking about. But
correct.
That's kind of what I want to get into is I think Thomas's time in the LCS maybe didn't get the proper attention because of all the things, the extenuating circumstances around it. So what can you tell us as a coach about Thomas's time in the LCS?
Thomas wins. That's what I can tell you about Thomas. So like Bob Jenkins, like people are like, he's a Kennen one trick, or he plays these off meta picks, but he can kind of do like anything. Really clean Akali, like good Aurelia. Obviously great Kennen, but he also plays Sion, Gnar, Renekton, like these kinds of picks as well. Like his Camille's really good. And the thing about Thomas is like he thinks about the game on like a very granular detail. So he'll be like, the reason this matchup wins against this is because you have X amount more attack speed, which means you always get like an additional hit in this trade. And like he knows all of the matchups to like a very, very small detail. And I think that's what Alfari likes about him, because when they talk about the game, they use like very similar language, and that's quite rare. So I think like Thomas is obviously a really talented player, but also he like just wants to win. So if the game plan is like play around me and I'll carry, then he's good at that. If the game plan is leave me on an island and I'll lose as slowly as possible, he'll also do that with a smile so he can win. And I think like this might sound really basic to people, but I'm telling you, in sport, there are people that would rather look like the stars and lose than look like a loser and win. And Thomas is very much willing to look like a loser and win.
I mean, in his games in the LCS, all he did was absorb pressure constantly.
Correct.
People figured, you new guy, let's gank him like crazy. And he was winning tower dives. He was winning 2v1s. He's an impressive guy.
He's a very, very good player.
Yeah.
He should be in the LCS.
I totally agree. Well, I was going to say to you, I think you think all your players should be in the LCS, correct?
Not all of them. I think like a couple of them could use another year in academy, to be honest. We have some young players. Like I think our average age was like 20.5 years or something at the start of the year, which was a really, really young team. So I think like John and Thomas, without a shadow of a doubt, should be in LCS. I think Ayla also like is a really, really great support. He could be in the LCS. There are also some very, very good supports in North America at the moment, so I can understand why he's not. Harry and Jan probably need an extra year. Like they're individually very good players, but the game as a whole in the LCS is a different game to what is normally played in academy. And just watching how they play sometimes, I'm like, some of the things you do would get exploited quite hard. So I think, and you know, there are some mid lane killers out there. Jizuki, for example, if you're not ready to play the game against him, he'll abuse you. I know Ryoma probably had a couple of matchups against him that were eye-opening as well. And I think similar things, like Harry does play the game very similar to how Ryoma plays the game. So I think like some of those things would get exploited.
The academy system has 3 matches or best of 2 for every game. You play 2 games every week, and then there are other tournaments. You've seen the LCS and the way it works, and you've worked personally in the academy system. How do you think we should fix NA development? What things do you think we need to take over from each system or revisit just to make our players more talented?
All right, so take this with a grain of salt, right? Because I'm in North American League of Legends terms by the route of Riot killing my region. So take everything I say with like a grain of salt, right? But I am of the personal opinion that playing stage games makes you better. I know what people don't like about the LCS at the moment from a coach's perspective is you play best of ones on 3 days, and then you can only scrim for like 3 days, then you only get 1 day off. So they only get 15 scrims, or if you night block and you do 2 or 3 games, you know, that's another 6 to 9. So, you know, 21 to 24 scrims a week. I always get more scrims than that in academy because I get 4 days of 5 scrims. So I think more games on less days. So I would love to see LCS play best of 2, best of 3 twice a week. Or the other route that I would like to see it go is just go to the NBA model. Just play every night. Train during the day, play at night. Because then I think that you can have the best of both worlds where, if every single team isn't expected to play every match day, if 4 teams play on Monday, 4 teams play on Tuesday, things like that, you just have rolling practice. I think that could also be good.
In the past, age has been a big factor that people bring up when they're talking about any development. And I know you're passionate about saying that, I don't want to speak for you, but I know you're passionate about the age argument being a little ridiculous. Can you tell me your opinions on it?
Yeah, it's really stupid. The reason that in the past, people that played esports were typically younger is because eventually real life takes over and you can't do the esports hobby that pays $20,000 of prize pool winning a year that was happening in, 2010. But we don't live in that world anymore. These guys make a lot of money to be able to be professional esports athletes. There is flexibility around it to have partners. We've seen that with people getting married and still being able to win worlds. I have a family. I think all these things are really, really doable within esports now. And I always say, if you want to do the reaction speed tests, right, of these players, well, I have quicker reaction speed on average than Eddie or tactical. So I'll just throw that one out there. So reaction speed isn't everything.
Welcome to the starting 80 carry role, Jake.
Thank you very much. Because I think obviously reaction speed isn't everything, but then I always use goalkeepers in football or in soccer.
Thank you.
Or I use hockey players because reaction speed is important, but then anticipation and experience becomes equally as important as these things and the roles that require a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers. So I think it's just a silly argument that you get worse of League of Legends as you get older. I think video games as a whole, we've seen so many great Counter-Strike players, for example, that the older they get, they just continue to be good. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean young players can't be good, because what happens is learning takes a long time, but teaching, you can compress the knowledge and deliver it to someone shorter, right? So the amount of time it took CoreJJ to become a great support and learn it all himself, he can now compress that by a significant amount and start delivering it to someone like Ayla. And Ayla will learn quicker than what CoreJJ did, because CoreJJ can eliminate all the bad things that he had to go through as well. So I think young players can still be good, but calling someone's career over at 23 is very, very silly to me. And also, the one thing I will say, and please don't take offense to this, but I have found on average, Americans do seem a little bit younger than Australians or Europeans. So it does not surprise me if, 21-year-old North American player is similar to 19-year-old Australian player. And that's just from anecdotal evidence so far. But I think that, Americans do seem younger.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's your college system or your secondary school education system. Honestly, I haven't been a part of American culture for long enough, but that's just something I have noticed. Maybe it is that America is so big, and to my knowledge, lots of Americans don't go outside of America until they're, a little bit older or something like that. But there has to be something there that they just seem a little bit young.
I think most Americans never leave America, period.
Yeah, potentially. Whereas Australians, Europeans, obviously, we much more traveling.
We said you traveled to Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I've been to, I'm very, very blessed. So I won't use my personal experience because I've been to a lot of places, but between the age of 18 and 22, which was way before I got into esports, I'd gone to Thailand about 6 times, Bali probably 5 times. I've been to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all around there, backpacking, holidays, things like that.
How did those experiences mature you more than you think someone going to university for a few years would?
You just see really different walks of life, right? I remember the first time going to Bali in Indonesia and just seeing, extreme poverty, seeing, when you walk up and you want to buy a toy and you're how much is this? And it's it's 40 cents. And it's in Australia, that thing would be $15. It's just seeing the extreme differences. It really opens your eyes. The first time I went there, I was 11. And I was just wow, this is a completely different planet. And I think that things like that humble you, but also teach you about how fortunate you are and, give you perspective in different situations when you're going through a rough time, not to, minimize people's how they view their life, but it really is kind of eye-opening. I know when Jenna went to Kenya, she's a nurse, so she went to Kenya to volunteer as a nurse. And the things that she saw and had to put up with over there. And, I guess it just gives you perspective.
Where's the first place you're going to take your sons when COVID's over or when you
North America, I hope. I hope they get to come over here with me and get to see daddy work, But outside of that, I would love to take them to, well, first, New Zealand is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and I am very lucky to live next door to it. So I'll probably take them to New Zealand, take them to Hobbiton to be able to, like, you know, have a drink in the inn there. But then
they're going to have a drink in there?
I mean, they can have a baby chino with some marshmallows. But then from there, like when they're like, you know, 11, 12, 13s, if I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford to be able to take them to Southeast Asia, I'll probably do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they're going to fall in your track of coaching or leadership positions in competitive environments?
I don't think so. I think Jasper definitely not, right? Jasper's just like, he's completely different. Like he's really about him, like about himself, you know, his interests. He's not really great at sharing a couple of things like that. So I think like he will probably do something like, I hope, around space, because it really is his passion. Like I can't stress this enough. The kid spends like 14 out of 14 waking hours talking about the solar system and space. So I hope he does something like that. And then obviously Henry, I don't know, maybe he will be a little bit more like me. He is quite short, so maybe he'll have to go into esports as opposed to professional sports.
So last night, Jake and I played some League together. Jake Yaltz, our analyst, Cold, our head coach, and surprisingly bad jungle and mid laner. And who's the last person?
Me and you. Dodo.
Dodo. How could I forget Dodo?
How could you forget your boss?
How could I forget my boss? He's going to be pissed about that one. I think he's the only person that watches these.
Is he really?
Well, Jensen watches
Dodo,
them.
you out there?
Jensen, are you watching this? Dodo, are you watching this? I told them to stop by for a beer at some point.
Absolutely.
I'll see if they're around right now. Hold on, let me ask him.
That's why he actually brings his laptop on set, by the way.
Who wants to come crash the set? Last time Dodo sent Core out, and he was like, dude, I got you so good. And I was like, I don't really see how that's getting me, but you know, I'll share the screen with Core. But we have some clips from our games last night, and you know, you have a lot of experience as a caster.
I do.
I was hoping that you could maybe give me some pointers, and we could do it together. We could cast together, and you could give me the secrets and teach me the formulas, because I'm sure there are formulas. And
yeah, for sure. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of casters like make, is that they
call them out specifically.
No, I just think like every caster when they start, because I was doing it as well, is like you feel like you have to discover the craft yourself. You feel like you have to be like really grassroots and stuff like that. But there are just some terrific things online, and obviously some terrific people to be able to reach out to. They'll actually just give you the basics of, like, you know, after a team fight finishes, don't recap the team fight straight away, because you're most likely going to get a replay as soon as it's queued up in 30 seconds. And then you're just going to talk about the replay 3 times as opposed to twice.
That's tip number 1.
So tip number 1, stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely some things to talk about.
And Pastry Time is the person that helps you get into casting?
Correct.
I know you told me this story before, but can you tell?
Oh, you want to hear the story about how I got into casting? Oh, it's great, because it also involves beer. So
Bud Light specifically.
Yeah, I was out at a party with Jenna, and she got food poisoning. So we have to leave early, and I'd had a couple of beers, and Atlas, or Max Anderson, the LCK caster, reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, we knew each other through League of Legends. I'd played tournaments and things like that. He was like, hey, my co-caster's sick. Can you jump online and just cast with me online? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm a little bit inebriated, but I'll give it my best shot. So I jump on and I start casting, and Jenna's unwell, and, you know, I just don't even think about it. And then like 2 days later, I get a message from Pastry. And he's like, hey, I heard you cast. I think you're pretty good. We've got a tournament coming up in OS, which was called Winter in 2014. Do you want to cast it? And I was like, sure. And he was like, well, I need to listen to you cast. So then I did a couple of like Discord or Skype or whatever casts with him back then. And that was really good. And then I went and cast Winter. And then Atlas messages me during Winter and says, create a Twitter now. And I was like, I don't know why I need to do that. And I created a Twitter and instantly got followed by Jat and Nat Nguyen.
Wow.
And then Jat was like, hey, you want to come to North America? Because we have promotion relegation happening at the same time that we have to be getting ready for Worlds. And I was like, absolutely. I want to go to North America. So in the space of like 2 and a bit months of starting casting, I was actually in North America casting, you know, I can't remember who it was. Was it Curse or someone on the verge of getting eliminated?
The previous iteration of Team Liquid? How could you forget?
I don't know. But yeah, you know, some small town, homegrown team. Yeah, I was casting that.
And ever since then, you fell in love with it, or was it a slow love?
No, I was like obsessed. Like, and this is like things that you have to learn, like as, you know, a person, is like, you know, what's healthy and unhealthy to give to your work. But I gave everything to my job for, you know, 5 years.
Who were your role models in casting? You're a big NBA guy. Was there anyone in the NBA?
Yeah, I really love Kenny the Jet Smith, and I love Jeff Van Gundy. I think he's like a really, really good commentator. But I really didn't have many like people that I took inspiration from. I was one of those like silly people that was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna grind it out. Happy being shit for a bit. I'm just gonna keep casting and hopefully get better. And it took a while, but I think by the end of my casting career, I was pretty good.
And to anyone that wants to be a caster out there right now, do you think your experience is one that they could have as well, or do you think because it was the early days, it was a different world?
Yeah, I always say like the way I would get, because everyone's like, I don't know if you get asked this, but everyone's like, how do you get into esports? How do you get into esports? Yeah. And I'm like, well, esports, you're really lucky. Like I was unlucky. I got into esports when no one got paid, and I shit.
Wait,
you
you're
not,
getting paid?
I shit you not. Like the first ever esports event I did outside of winter, I was like, a company reached out and they were like, we want you to come cast our event, and I was like, fantastic. And they're like, it's in Sydney, which is like a 12-hour drive or 1-hour flight, right? And I was like, no worries. And I'd only done things for Riot before that. And I was like, all right, cool. Where are we staying? When's my flight? And they're like, oh, no. You have to get yourself here and you have to look after your own accommodation.
So they're...
And I was like, okay. And they were like, we'll provide water. So I got bottled water. I slept on Atlas's floor and I paid for my own flights to and from there. So the event cost me about $1,000. But I had the privilege of casting it, and I needed the reps, like, to be honest, so I'm not salty at all. But it was just one of those things where, like, when I started doing it, you didn't get paid. You did it because you loved it. And I really do love League of Legends, right? So, like, what I would say to people that want to get into esports, not just casting, is you're probably good at something. I believe that everyone, I'm like one of those people, I'm a crazy romantic at heart, Ben. And I believe, like, have you ever had a thought of, like, why did I never play the violin? Maybe I'm the best violin player of all time, but I just never played. Yeah. Why didn't you play the harp? Like, I believe like everyone is good at something. And like, if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it's going to look like an idiot thing. I like really strongly believe in that. So I think if you want to get into esports, figure out what you're good at. Are you a good drawer? Are you a good speaker? Are you fantastic with people? Do you have a passion for talent management? Do you work in a technical aspect in a studio? Like, what do you do? Because I guarantee you can apply that to esports now. Because esports is just now a field. And it needs every kind of job. And then once you're in esports, do whatever the fuck you want. Because like once you're in the room, like you can do anything.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, I started out as a commentator, became a general manager, worked in partnership and signed deals, and then became a coach. And, I didn't necessarily have the most experience in any of these fields, unless Steve asked, in which case I am very qualified for everything I do. But I am able to get into a role, give it my all, and be able to learn, right? So, like, what I would say is, like, just get into the field that you want to get into and then figure out what you want to do.
And reach out to people, I think, is another big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there are some people in the scene that are assholes, and then there are lots of nice people that will help you.
And who are the assholes? List them.
You. Probably me, to be honest. Don't reach out to me. But yeah, no, I think like lots of people in esports, they did a slog, so they're willing to help people out.
So you're a coach. Tell me, coach, how should we review these clips? Should we watch them first together and then you'll tell me what points that we should hit on? Or should we just go in straight blind and try doing it together?
So are you color casting or play-by-play?
I was going to ask which one you would feel more comfortable teaching me to do.
So I can teach you to do both.
Let's do both then. How about we have two clips? Why don't we do one of one and one of the other?
All right. So the easiest way to become a play-by-play caster is you need to pretend that the people at home have their eyes closed. This is like really basic. So obviously more experienced play-by-play casters probably don't do this. But it is now your job to convey the important information on the screen to the viewers at home. So they are the canvas. You are the painter and the paint. So you need to be able to, and we don't want to watch the clip first because I want to see if you can do it live.
Let's do it.
But what you need to be able to do is take the important information that is happening on screen and convey it to the legions and legions of dedicated Ben Zieper fans.
Wow. Let's run the clip. How do we do this? And you'll be the
No, you're play-by-play casting it. So you're the person that
I'm speaking solely alone.
You're going to start screaming at the top of I hope it's a team fight.
It is a team fight.
Yeah,
well, it's an attempt at a team fight.
So you're going to be Captain Flowers.
Okay, and then what are you going to do?
You're going to be like, well, I will color cast afterwards, but you're going to be like, Ariana coming in and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
You know how Captain Flowers
I do.
Yeah.
Ba, ba, ba! Stuff like that.
Correct. Cadence to your voice is really important when you do this as well.
I got to think about
because
my voice sounds like.
what people, the other mistake that people make while they're getting the clip ready is they will speak as fast as possible. But do you know who's a great play-by-play caster?
Pastry.
And Dracos. Do you know what Dracos does better than anyone?
What?
Goes really, really fast, slows it down. Really, really fast, slows it down. Emphasis word. Really, really fast, slows it down. You got to be able to do stuff like that.
I'm going to try my hardest. And then I want to see you do it because...
I can't wait.
Are we ready with the clip? Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, we're ready. Okay, Zed is pushing up the mid lane, and the Dodo Xerath is hitting with the Q, but then his W misses. Oh, and Spawn on the AP Volibear jumps in, and he ults! But then the Lee Sin gets out, and Spawn's going a little bit everywhere. Dodo steps up. Spawn is calling in his E, and there's massive damage! The Ezreal ult goes wide! And nothing really is going on right now. Twitch is looking for the position. The thresh hook misses. Volibear is going up. He's going up. He flashes, and Cold misses his glacial augment thingy. Oh my god! And Xerath is caught, and it looks like Volibear may be gone there too. The Zed ult. Does Nidalee heal him? No, Nidalee doesn't. Nidalee lets him die for the kill. Irelia's ult goes wide, and then it looks like Irelia's gonna flash over. Can they kill Twitch? It looks like they can't. Oh, and Yultz is just BMing there.
What went wrong there for Team Liquid? It was all going so well, but then you could just see the read from the red squad was too good in the end of the day. A couple of mechanical misplays as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of casting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can I hear how you would do that clip?
Okay, yeah. I would, like, but the thing is like, the reason I became... I don't know if I've ever told the story about why I became a play-by-play caster.
Why?
Right? Because when... color casting and play-by-play casting was discovered in League of Legends, right? It's like people like Pastry Time working with people like Jat, people like Freak working with people like Kobe. And what it meant was like, and I really hate this picture that got painted. It was like, oh, one idiot that yells, and then the really smart person breaks it down for everyone. And I was like, well, that's really not how it is, because if you look at people like Flowers and Pastry and Freak, they're all really knowledgeable about the game. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some play-by-play casters somewhere that know nothing about League of Legends. I don't know, right? But, like, I think genuinely, like, casters do know a lot about the game. So the reason I wanted to become a play-by-play caster is I wanted every cast to be more like a tri-cast. So I just split myself in two. So I had myself that called the action, but then I also, for the rest of the game, just sat in color caster mode and had, like, an intelligent conversation. And, like, Atlas has this habit, which is like, he's smart about the game, but instead of giving you his opinion, he'll phrase his opinion in a question to make you look smarter. So he'll be like, instead of being like, oh, that red side invade, was bad because, delay timing on jungler support, they were desync or whatever it would be like. He'd be like, do you think that invade went wrong because support was too late to be able to come there? So like, you can tell that he knows like about the game, right? But he asks you a question as opposed to giving his opinion. And that's to like, casting is like, you make me look good, I make you look good, we both look good, everyone's happy, right? But I tried to buck that trend. So I would have probably done that team fight very, very differently.
Let's hear how you would have done that team fight. And then after, I need your notes, Jake, because I didn't get notes.
What do you mean you didn't get notes?
How did I do?
Oh, you did great.
You hear that? I did. Wait, so you're going to tell everyone about me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to put me on the broadcast?
Correct.
Next week when they ask you to come on the broadcast, you're going to say, actually, I
can't do it, but I think Ben should go.
Okay, cool.
I'll write that email. We'll see how it goes, Ben, but I'll write the email. So at this point, I'll probably be like, yeah, the game seems pretty even, 20 to 15 for the blue team. A couple of skill shots going wide there. Volibear going to look for a little bit of engage. Ignite goes down. Ultimate is going to be flashed away by the Lee Sin. And you can just see the red team right now is in a little bit of disarray. They want to retreat. Good skill shots being landed there from Xerath for a little bit of chunk damage. And we'll see whether they are going to dive the turret. Wave going to be pushed in now. Recall going to be cancelled. Flashing from the Volibear. Everything going to miss on the Thresh. Flay comes across. Twitch is going to be able to pick up the first kill. That's a shutdown. Zed puts on fancy footwork. Going to be able to duck dive. Goes back in. Picks himself up a shutdown number 2. And this is just looking like a complete disaster for the blue side. The red team starting to turn this one around. Aurelia going to be able to pick up the first kill, but she will also ultimately fall. 3 kills going to be picked up for just 1 in return.
And it's crazy to see that all happen because that just happened in the game. That was my color casting.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Actually, I'm not just saying this. That was very cool to sit next to you and watch you do it because that was incredible.
Thank you. That's actually, I don't know what else to say apart from thank you.
No, that's okay.
I really enjoy casting. It was like, so I was good at other jobs I did. Casting was the first job I ever loved.
You were great at that. I mean, and your cast in the past, not just this one in a bubble. But, you
Not
you
just
were
one
a
on
good caster as well.
But yeah, no, I really enjoy casting, so it's fun to be able to do still.
The thing I noticed the most this sitting next to you is that you would say things. I felt the need to say things as they were happening in the second, but you would say it almost a second and a half afterwards, which I like a lot more, is what I realized.
Well, the thing is like, and this is what I was saying, at the start, you'll be a radio caster, right? But then you have to realize that the people can see it. So you shouting it out as it's happening isn't that important. And in fact, sometimes being able to say it more accurately is better. So like people also have access to the game. And like, I think Captain Flowers does this really, really well. Captain Flowers for important team fights will be like on cadence. Like he'll be calling the action as it happens. If it's like the fight that's going to win a team the world championship, it's probably a little bit more important to be like on time with the actual game itself. But if it's just a run of the mill team fight, you could be like a second, 2 seconds behind. Doesn't matter.
Good to know.
Yeah.
We have one more clip, and this one I really love because this is the clip of contention that we were talking about this morning. Where, so for reference, we were calling for a dive, and we did not execute it well. And Jonas was whining about it this morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Cold was whining about it this morning.
We can pull this one up too.
So, do you want to do? Should I do the color casting now, and you'll do the play-by-play?
Yeah, you do the color casting. So what I want you to do?
Tell me what you want me to do.
I want you to lead into the clip, but as soon as action starts, you need to cut off with like a sharp sentence.
Okay.
So I know this clip too. So you'll be saying something around, they're pushing in bottom lane, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll say something along the lines of, and do not steal this, here comes the teleport.
Okay.
And then that's when the play-by-play caster will jump in, right? So that's also really important. And like, we'll use a lot of hand actions. And what I'll normally do as a color caster is I'll be talking. I'll see actions about to happen because I know the game. And then I'll be like, ba, 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 bam.
I was actually going to ask, and I don't want to forget, how do you make sure you're not using the same phrases over and over and over again week after week? Like you said that Zed was using the fancy footwork and something like that.
Yeah, so two things. You can use the same phrases, but it has to be deliberate. And what I mean by that is like any game that was under 25 minutes, I would call a shellacking. So like it was just a catchphrase, right? And I would end the game be like something like, and in under 25 minutes, order have absolutely blah, 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 right? And shellacking, like somewhere in there. And so it was deliberate. So people aren't going to be annoyed about deliberate word choice. What is really annoying is when you don't deliberately say like a phrase that catches you up. Your brain will be thinking so much about what is on screen that your mouth goes on autopilot. And then you'll just say like a turn of phrase that you always say.
I'm ready to do it. Let's run the clip. And the bot lane is pushing in a pretty large wave right now. The Xerath Q is going to go wide. Ashe is trying to get this wave in as soon as possible. Xerath has no stacks. It looks like they'd be setting up for a possible dive. The wave is about to crash, and here comes the TP.
Galio coming in, looking for a little bit of action. The heal has been popped, and Thresh has just gone nowhere. The hook's gone wide. Should have waited for that W to come across. Flash in from the Galio, flash in response, and now the red team, they're just in no man's land. They've been left up shit creek without a paddle. They need to be able to make this one work. They come back around the corner. Ian from the Galio going to be able to pick up the first kill. Actually, Ashe is going to fall down. I cannot believe they let the superstar of the team die. Ben, how did you leave me so alone, so lonely? I had my whole life ahead of me, and now it's all just been crushed into oblivion.
And it looks like the red one team is going to have to bounce back from that bot play. They used a lot of summoners, and I just don't know if they're going to win. But judging by the fact that they had 2 former pros, 1 analyst, and 1 coach, and then some guy, I think they're going to be just fine.
I think they'll pull it out.
The thing about that clip that I want to talk about before we even get into the casting is that my Thresh play was awful, okay? I can accept that.
Yes.
But Jonas's flash W on Galio was so bad.
Yeah.
That was way worse.
So what happened there, right? And I can explain this even from like a pro player.
Yeah.
Because he had teleported on a neutral wave.
Yeah.
So he knew his wave mid was going to be cooked. He knew he was going down probably half to 3/4 of a level off making that play. So it's like the sunken cost fallacy. He was a man that had bet everything on red and it had hit black. So then he went and stole his mother's credit card and put her credit card on red in hope that it was going to work out. It didn't work out.
No, it didn't. Well, we still won the game.
We won the game. I had 19 kills.
Yeah, you did. You actually popped off in that game.
Jonas called me a KDA player in that game.
He did, and you got mad at him for KSing you.
Yeah.
And this is all just to prove that we're friends outside the workplace,
Correct.
too.
This just shows that we actually talk to each other a little bit.
Any notes you have for my my color casting? The way I
you're a little bit too on screen. So color casters are the ones that don't have to be on screen. That's why I liked being a color caster.
Okay.
So the best color casters in the world are people that have like really. I always used to say to a color caster, if you're not good at color casting, learn how to become a color caster. Obviously, that's A, and then go travel the world.
It seems like you think the solution to everything is travel the world.
Yeah, but do you know like who pointed it out to me? Like, so Monty Cristo, who's also a friend. He was like, one of the things I really enjoy about your color casting is you're not afraid to like be off screen. And one of the things that people loved about Monty's casting is like he would reference a movie halfway through. Like if the game got boring, he would just take you somewhere else for a little bit, then bring you back when the game's fun. And what you should have done there is you should have trusted your gut that it was just a building wave. And then you could have been something along the lines of like, yeah, bottom lane stacking a wave. And did you manage to catch the latest episode of ABC last night? And you know, whatever. Yeah. And then when action starts, it'd be like, oh, but it looks like there's teleport coming in. And I think like people like to not just always be, it's exhausting. Like it is like sometimes when you listen to casters that only talk about the game, you get tired listening to it, right? It's like, yeah, I know, but just tell me something else. So being able to take people off screen for a bit is good.
Good to know. And these are all very valuable tips. I hope people
and I only charge $1,000 day rate for casting lessons. So you can just hit me up with that as well.
I have a company card. Do you actually give caster lessons to people?
I do give caster lessons to people, yes.
You want to do it with me later? Cool. We'll talk about that later. We're going to take some fan questions now because...
is the show nearly over?
The show is nearly over.
You told me it ends with fan questions.
It doesn't. Well, that's how it ends.
I thought that this was like a certain other podcast that we won't say the name of because maybe we'll get infringement upon. But I thought that episodes could go for as long as we wanted.
They can go for as long as you want.
I'm not ready to go yet.
Okay, well, you have... the only reason I'm ready to cut it is you have a team that is screaming without you right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure they're doing great.
We always talk about how the post-game interviews would be really funny if they just answer questions like really basic. Like, how did you win that matchup? Well, Conqueror, when you stack it up, it gives you healing. So I stacked it up and then I healed.
Yeah. No, do you know who actually my favorite my favorite person to listen to interviews is?
Who?
Greg Popovich from the San Antonio Spurs.
Why?
Because he'll do stuff like that. Like they'll be like, the interviewer will walk up to him like Craig Sagan normally and be like, Kevin Durant, he had like 27 points on, 8 of 11 shooting in the first half. And what do you think about that, coach? And he would just be like, yep, that was a problem. Or like, they've been able to shoot 67%. And he's like, better defense. like he just gives like such straightforward, like basic answers. And I really find that funny.
I don't know who was telling me. Someone was telling me about a basketball player. Maybe it was Tanner, but someone was telling me about a basketball player that every time they ask him a question, he just goes, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, what did you think of this matchup? Once again. Who is it? Marshawn Lynch. What team does he play for?
I think
he's retired.
Yeah, football, not basketball.
Oh, that's football?
Yeah.
Wait, football, my football, or Jake's football?
No.
USA football?
Hand egg.
Okay. Do you guys have hand egg in Australia?
Like you can play it, but it's not like a big sport.
You seem like you'd be a rugby guy.
We have Aussie rules football and rugby. No, I'm an Aussie rules football guy.
Really?
Yeah, and the best way, if you haven't ever seen Aussie rules football, the best way to describe it is like they don't wear any padding. It has the violence of like gridiron or hand egg or whatever you guys want to call it, football, with the finesse of kickboxing. It is a very, very violent sport. You can get away with a lot in AFL football.
Oh, you know what we should talk about that I think people don't know about you, or at least I didn't know about you until working with you? You have a lot of experience in martial arts.
I do.
Can you tell us about that and how it has impacted your career as a League of Legends coach, manager, everything?
Yeah, everything. No, absolutely.
Tell me your life story.
So like when I was a kid, so obviously I wear glasses, right? And I was a little bit chubby and I had red glasses.
Chubby and red glasses.
And I had a lazy eye in my left eye. And do you know how they fix a lazy eye?
They put an eye patch on you?
They put an eye patch on you.
Yeah.
So I was a chubby kid with red glasses and an eye patch. Do you know what that meant, Ben?
That you were the most popular kid in school.
I got beaten up a lot. So my parents put me in martial arts. Woo! So when I was like, 9 or 10 years old, I started Taekwondo. And I was really bad at it. And Taekwondo was like the first thing I'd ever done that I was like, because I was always like kind of smart at school, and I could play basketball, like I would just shoot threes or whatever.
Like no biggie.
Yeah, like I wouldn't move a lot was what I was trying to say. I was like one of those guys who would just park myself in the corner. And so I started martial arts, and like I sucked, and I was like, it sucks sucking at something. So then I just kept doing it and kept doing it. I got obsessed with it, right? So by the time I was like, I think 14 years old, I was like red belt. And I started teaching classes. So it was like my first job as like a 14-year-old was I would teach classes, and I got my black belt. Then I started competing in sparring and competition. Came second in nationals twice as a black belt under 17-year-old. And then I started coaching more and more. By the time I was like kind of 16, 17, my day would be, I would get up in the morning, I would go to my Taekwondo center, I would train in the morning myself, I would get on a train, I would go to high school. I would then get back on a train, go back to Taekwondo to coach for 3 hours. And then I would train for another 2 hours that night. So I was training like 4 hours-ish.
You hate sleep.
Yeah, I really don't like sleep. I'm a very bad sleeper. I think we've had this conversation before as well. So I would train like 4 hours a day, teach like 3 hours. And that was my first job. And I was really, really fortunate. I got to, like, when you do something like martial arts, you get to like meet people from all different walks of life. You know, guy that owns a store and is, you know, well off, to kid that's like maybe a little bit from a, you know, poorer area, and you get to teach everyone, and everyone is equal as soon as you walk onto the mats. Like, that's my favorite thing about it. Like, teaches you respect, because in a combat sport, like, you know, you don't respect people, you get hurt. So like, I really enjoy that part of martial arts, right? And so I was really, really big into it until like kind of 19, 20 years old. And I taught for like 6 or 7 years. And that was where my love of coaching came from, because to go from someone that sucked at something to putting in hard work and becoming better and better and better until I was pretty good. Like, I was never the best, but I came second a couple of times out of everyone in Australia.
I would argue that is almost the best.
Yeah, in my weight division. Well, I always say the thing about martial arts, which is like, remember how I said everyone's good at something?
Yeah.
There are some people that I'm sure are like just businessmen or cameramen or whatever, and they're like, I'm very good at fighting, but I can't fight in like martial arts and things like that, because if I broke my leg, I wouldn't be able to support my family, right? So even though I can say, like, on paper, I was the second best in Australia, the reality is there's probably lots of people that can whoop my ass. And so I'm not happy making that as a concrete statement, Ben, because what I found out as a young kid is when you start bragging about fighting, you're actually getting way more fights than when you had the eye patch on in the first place. So yeah, I think that, yeah, I was good. I enjoyed it. It kept me really, really fit, really, really healthy through a, you know, troubling time in my life. And it gave me a passion for coaching.
And now you use it to beat the crap out of the team when they're not listening. That's true, right, everyone?
I always say, though, that like, I think that like, it's really important for like players to like see perspective. Once again, like, see what other people are good at. So I really love when like they go play golf with someone, or they go hiking with someone, or you know, bike riding, or we play table tennis a lot in the office. And like, there are some people that are like great at table tennis, and you know, I would love to take my team not to do the sparring side of Taekwondo, but to do Pumse and other side of it, and show them, you know, how difficult a martial art is.
As someone who is not like a very competitive person, I think one of my biggest realizations coming here is that you guys just like think a different way. There's something about the people on this team that I am so okay with, like being awful at things and not being the best at anything. I don't want to be the best at anything, but there's this pattern in all of your behavior where you guys become almost obsessed with one task or one thing, and are so determined to reach the highest level of it. Is that something that you think springs from your childhood, or where does that drive come from?
I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but yeah.
You said you wanted to stay on, Jake.
I always say, like, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, because I'm one of these people too, right? But a healthy kid does not play the amount of solo queue or other video game it requires in their formative years if they're completely well balanced at that time. I personally had some trouble with my family and stuff like that. That is probably for a different show that is like a little bit more serious, right? But that's why I spent a lot of time on video games and on the computer. And my experience is, not everyone, but like some people also have that. And so what I will say is, like, whether it was a sporting injury, you know, I know a couple of people actually were really great at sport, and then they got injured, and then they had to convert that competitive drive to like video games.
think
And that's why they
Santorin
want to
did.
be like that. I think Cold was like that.
Oh, really?
I know Juves was like that. Maybe Santorin was like that. I know some people had like some uncomfortable housing situations, or their parents separated or something like that, or they moved school at an important part of their life and they didn't necessarily have friends, so they played things like World of Warcraft or stuff like that because that was where their social circle hung out. And what I would say is like that converts very, very quickly into like my identity is this. And if it's my identity, I want to be really, really good at it. And that's what I was like with Taekwondo. And then I converted a lot of that to video games.
But it's not just Taekwondo is a great example of you grinding something else out in a different aspect. Eddie and Lucas, Eddie and Tactical and Santorin are both like very high ranked in Valorant in the off season when they play in Apex,
and like really good chess players. Like even if you want to go not video games, right? They're great chess players, or you know they'll play things like Magic the Gathering. I know a lot of like video game players play Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. Yeah, but they definitely have a competitive drive. That's what being an athlete is.
Am I crazy for not meeting people like that until I got here, or not thinking that I've met people like that until I've got here?
Well, you probably have, but they probably I know you're a comedian, for example, and I don't know whether your audience knows that, but Ben does some mad stand-up gigs, and you should probably...
We'll see.
Yeah. But I'm sure you know comedians that want to be the best comedians.
Of course.
But they're just very self-deprecating and like very, off the cuff and don't make a big deal out of it, right? But people are competitive creatures. Like we compete for partners, we compete for positions.
Right now we're competing for screen time.
We compete for screen time. So no, I think like you probably haven't seen it as overt, because when you're a professional competitor, the chances are you just wear that shit on your sleeve, right? But like I think in general, people are pretty competitive. I would say there's some things that you are pretty competitive about. You just don't know it yet.
Like screen time.
Yeah, maybe. You've given me a lot of screen time, Ben. If you're competitive about screen time,
well, Jake, you're a good guest. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to hog it. Let's talk about me. We have a special guest in the room. I don't know if he's going to come on. Jonas, we watched the clip where you
dove bottom lane.
Dove bottom lane. You're shit. You are so bad.
Yes.
Yeah, we should. Why don't you come here and tell us your opinion on the clip? Come here. Let's run the clip back.
Can we run the clip?
Can we run the clip back? Yeah. This is actually so good because Jonas used to be on the analyst desk sometimes too.
So look at this, Jonas. So
Jonas, look at how bad you suck.
We're pushing bottom lane as fast as we can.
Okay, that's a good clip. I like it. Okay. Stacking a wave. It's a good play. And the TP is coming in. Who is that? That is a good player.
Look at what this TP.
What? Look at me.
Jonas,
you missed the hook.
You have him. You leave it. You wait.
No, because there's like a buffer on the Galio W.
No,
so I
Jonas,
can't.
he would have hit that.
He is a human player. Then of course he's gonna react to that. Look at that, and then I kill him after.
I can't believe you guys let me die.
Can we zoom in on Thresh through the sequence?
No, we can't.
I'm sure the Thresh must have done something wrong.
Well, I think the first ward was really useless, and that meant that he wasn't as far forward as he needed to be.
Just look at this.
And then you ran through creeps.
Look at your miss.
No, but
Jonas.
And then you.
But
what
why are you
doing?
running through the creeps?
Yeah, what are you doing?
So the creep every time you
guys,
touch a
I was
creep-
lagging.
Every time you touch a creep, you slow down.
I was
It's bad.
lagging. Jonas, look at this. You have him. Watch. You wait. Look at how long you waited, dude.
I think there was like a problem with my keyboard.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was lagging the entire time.
Yeah.
Normally smarts cast
actually,
these Ws.
No. This is because we played on the NA server.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
need the ping to be lower.
It's actually a ping. It's a ping problem.
Can you? We don't know the result of the scrims that were going on, but how was your scrims today? Tell the fans.
Well, I didn't play any.
Will I be happy or upset when I get back in the room?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
I'm always happy.
I can't predict his feelings. You know?
Why are you so cheeky with every single question? You can't just give a yes or no.
No, I can't get a yes or no.
I know. I just asked,
Yeah,
and you just repeated what I said back to me.
Yeah, I just repeated what you said.
All right, do you have anything you want to tell everyone on the most viewed?
This is what we call the mirror tactic. I just say what you say.
That's the mirror tactic, where
Yeah.
you say what I say.
Yeah, I say what you say.
You say what I say.
Yeah, and then I say what you say, and then we get nowhere.
So you say what I say, and I say what you say, and we get nowhere.
Yeah, and now I'm leaving.
Goodbye. Thanks, Jonas. Wait, Jonas, do you have any questions for Jake as like a fan of his?
Yeah.
You told me last night that he's like your favorite caster.
Why is Denmark the best country in the world?
Okay, this question comes from TL Cold. Why is Denmark the best country in the world?
It's really funny, right? Because I was having this conversation with Cold over a beer the other night. I'm obviously a naive guy from Australia, very far from Denmark. But when I think about Denmark, I think about proud Scandinavian people on the helm of a boat with an axe and a big round shield and a beard and 7 foot tall, completely taking over the Mediterranean. And then I met Jonas Jensen and I was like, what happened to the Danes? When I used to play these guys in Civilization and stuff, we were a seafaring country. Nah, but in all honesty, like from the photos and stuff. I blame my dad for that shit.
Jonas's dad is 3'11".
It's beautiful. Actually, the thing, Deficio nearly convinced me to move to Denmark.
Really?
Because like apparently the education system is awesome. Apparently when you go over there, have kids and stuff like that, it's really great. Apparently if you can get a visa there, they really look after you. And apparently it's a really safe, welcoming, like just terrific country. So
I like how many times you had to say apparently there. Like before you were like, it's a shitty
I've never been
European.
to Denmark, so I can't give you a first-hand account. Like I can sell you on Australia, but like I would,
and you do all the time.
From the message, from what I've been told from people that live in Denmark, and even people like Mitch that went over there and stuff, right? Destiny.
Yeah.
I would want to live there eventually. I think it's cool.
I'd go there if Mitch was there.
I've never seen snow
Mitch.
as well, because apparently it snows there a lot. So, yeah.
Well, the show's about to end, but
Yeah,
thank you. Your well wishes are far too late. What's up? Goodbye.
Gone.
I love you. A care or AKKARE, so a car says, how often does Spawn go home during the split? Well, if we lose in playoffs, probably, tomorrow.
Well, no, but the answer to that during the split is I don't.
Yeah.
So I stay here the whole split. I'm dedicated to making sure that we get the best results we can, and in-person coaching is how we do that. So
Yeah.
I'm here for the whole split.
And it's been great having you here.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was a joke. Linkstorm wants to know, after forming these almost familial bonds with your team, how do you think it will feel to let them go, for example, to some other LCS teams, as that is a goal for Academy players?
Yeah, it's awesome, to be honest, right? So when I started Order, I started it with Swiffer was my mid laner. He now works for Excel. Spooks was my jungler. He now works for Golden Guardians Academy. Tally was my top laner. He is now back in O's for Peace. FBI was my AD carry. He now works for 100 Thieves. And Rogue was my support, and he's somewhere in Europe at the moment. So this is nothing new, right? When you're successful, you go on to bigger and better things. So you keep in contact with everyone, but it's cool.
You still talk to FBI?
Yeah, me and Vic are really good friends.
That's good.
I actually, Vic was great before he got the Order, but I've never had a player on my team like FBI. When I watched him play, I was like, holy shit, if you weren't such a terrible coach, maybe this kid would be the best AD carry in the world. And then he gets to North America and he's he's a god. So I love Vic.
Tarek96 wants to know, is a good rank in League important for casters?
Yes and no. So what I would say is you need to understand League of Legends. And some people display that understanding by playing the game and therefore getting a higher rank. But if you have 100 games in ranked for a year, you're not going to be high rank, right? No matter what you do. But you can display that knowledge through, informative comments. I really, for example, Midbeast, he'll watch Dopa VODs and will be able to tell you what Dopa's doing and why. I think he could do that whether he was a high rank or a low rank, right? He just is obsessed with mid lane and specifically Dopa and how he plays the game. So I think knowledge of League of Legends is important. If you play the game a lot, you should be able to convert that knowledge to a rank.
Have you ever thought about writing a book about League, something for people to read to help them understand concepts, or do you think viewing it is the only way to get it?
I've made this joke before that someone should write a book. I don't know if it should be me because I got taught League of Legends by different people as well. Mitch Crapper. He was the first person that really opened my eyes to hey, you think about this much of League of Legends, but there's actually this much of League of Legends. And I was like, holy shit, that's insane. So yeah, I think someone should write a book because League of Legends, I always talk to Jonas about this. League of Legends is a game of waves and priority. And you can do different cool stuff off that and you can cheat the system, but at a very basic level, that's what the game is about, resources and priority. And I think someone sometime should probably do an X's and O book on it.
I'll write the intro for your book, by the way.
Thank you. It's not going to be my book.
Well, yeah, it'll be our book because I'll write the intro. Aziz050 says, who is your all-pro LCS team, but you can't include TL players?
All right, can't include TL players.
Yeah.
All right, bottom lane, FBI Vulcan.
FBI Vulcan.
I think that it would be just so fun to watch like someone that aggressive play with FBI as well. I really respect Vulcan. I think he's an insane support. Mid lane, Abadage, probably. He's a really great player. And I really, like, I've said this before. I think I've said it to you before, but star players that can play carries and then in the same breath play supports and like have equal impact on both sides of like the champion pool, that to me is special. But multifaceted players really like, I love multifaceted players. So Abadage, I think, is multifaceted. Jungle position. Who would I give jungle to?
I think Speaker has been a pretty good split.
Yeah, Speaker's been good. All right, we'll give it to Speaker. Also, in the off-season, he was playing like Sunfire, Aegis, everything, like Scion and stuff on stream. And it was hella entertaining to watch him stream. That's actually one of the things that, like, back in the day, like, I sound like such an old man. Back in the day, when LCS players could play and stream, like, during the season, that was the best.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the best? And then, like, St. Vicious would randomly just actually stream scrims. Like, that never happens anymore. Why can't you just stream CLG scrims anymore?
You could do it if you wanted to.
But yeah, so Speaker's stream is like actually, that's the biggest crime that's happening in the LCS at the moment. Why can't Speaker stream? Okay, Speaker. And then top lane. Actually, you know who I'd give top lane to at the moment?
I wonder if it's the same person I'm about to say.
Even though I don't think he is necessarily the best top laner, he got so much shit before the season started. And I think Huni has like completely turned around like his perception in the LCS again. And Huni is this guy that on Fnatic was like a superstar. SKT, like, you know, he wins worlds or whatever. And you can say and whatever after that statement. And it's like, oh yeah, but he had Faker and he had these players. And then to be able to come back over to North America and people are like, oh, whoever's Huni's agent deserves a pay rise and blah, 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 blah. And you see all the shit talking about him. And then to be able to come in and just as a pro, take care of business. That's what it's all about. It's about taking care of business and getting dubs. To be able to come first on a team that looked fragmented in TSM. At the start of the year, people looked at the TSM roster and they're like, rookie 80 carry, Sword Art, who doesn't speak, you know, the best English and is going to have to shot call for this team. PoE, you know, Speaker, Huni, where is the cohesion? Where is the game plan? How is this team going to be able to play the game? Credit to their coaching staff for making them come first. But I think Huni in particular has like really silenced a lot of the critics around his gameplay.
I want to ask you about Abadage. Did you know that he was going to be... Did you know that 100 Thieves would have so much success? Because they were a fourth place team, now they're a second place team. And he has been looking great all split. But he was a fourth place mid laner in Europe, I believe, and had these splits of greatness, but you know also had these splits where he didn't really perform as well as he could have.
Yeah, and I think that like credit to Abadage because like winning is tough. Like everyone wants to win, and then there's only one winner, so by default it should be tough, right? But yeah, no, when you watched him in LEC, you could tell this kid had like insane talent. And then they obviously changed their coaching staff as well, and credit to 100 Thieves, they made the necessary changes that they needed to make, but also. I don't want to call it luck because like that's a bad way to put it. You also just have to take into account that Team Liquid has an injury and Santorin's only just back playing. Obviously, Alfari was out and the MSI Blues hit like every team globally. Yeah, I think this time around because traveling during COVID, for those at home that don't know, it sucks. Like if you haven't traveled during COVID, it's really hard to even like sympathize to like what it's like to travel in COVID because like I say to people like, I spent my 2 weeks in a hotel room without human contact. And people are like, dude, I am so jealous. And it's like, really? Because after day 9, I lost count of what day it was and like was literally going insane from staring at white walls. So like, I think that traveling during COVID, going through like double lockdown and everything that people have had to do, like that definitely would have like hit Cloud9 season as well. And they also had a roster change. So like 4th place to 2nd place to me isn't that big a deal when you count that the 2 teams in the finals kind of had shitty splits.
What about 2nd place to 4th place, which is us?
Less impressive, Ben. Less impressive. I wish we didn't do that.
Director Donut wants to know, does Spawn have any... I also love that they all call you Spawn because I know how much you hate
being called Spawn. Yeah.
Does Spawn have interest in taking the step from Academy coach to LCS coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be an LCS coach. Once again, I think everyone's goal in Academy should be to be an LCS coach, player, whatever. In saying that, like I knew that this was going to be a big learning year for me. I had never worked for a North American team. As I'm sure you would be able to attest to, like the inner mechanisms of an LCS team are very widely varied. And I think just different.
You take every day as it comes.
Yeah, exactly right. We don't wake up with many preconceived plans.
Yeah.
So I would love to take the step eventually, but I also don't think I was ready this year.
Got it. V, who's our incredible editor, and you and I have worked with a bunch in the past, says, what introduced Jasper to space? What piqued his interests?
I actually have no idea. It was his first word.
Space was his first word?
So sun was like, so people say different words, right? It's called babbling. So dad, mum, dog, whatever. Da. But the first word he ever pointed to in a book and said the word was sun.
Wow.
So he
What
had
was
a
the
book,
book?
and it just was a picture book. So it has like dog and a picture of a dog, and sun and a picture of a sun.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he was just like sun. And then 24 hours later, he was like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. No, joking. But yeah, then like I always say that like having a son with autism, like because he was my first son, like how was I supposed to know?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone was like, wasn't it really like obvious that like he's a little bit different? And it's like, well, yeah, now that I've had Henry, of course it's obvious that he's a little bit different. But at that time, I didn't have another secret kid hidden away that I had all this previous experience of. So like when he was like, you know, identifying the words of the solar system and being able to put things in order and stuff like that as like an 18-month-old. And I have pictures, videos of him at like 2, like reciting like, the Galilean satellites, Ganymede, Io, Europa, and Callisto, and they're the four moons that were discovered around Jupiter, and there's like 67 moons of Jupiter and stuff like that. I'm just like, he's just a bright kid.
Mm-hmm. Which he is a bright
nothing
kid.
to see here. But yeah, so like obviously, I don't know what it was, but like I know that like it's an area of interest, and lots of autistic people have this, and some people are mushrooms, cars, space.
Did you say he has a friend who's really into mushrooms?
Yeah,
like
he has
that?
a friend that's really into mushrooms. Has a mushroom book. Has like 300 and something mushrooms in there. And sometimes he would just be like, you know, this mushroom, it like looks cool and it's colorful, but if you eat it, you'll die. And I'm just like, great. Like, and then he'll always like end on like something like, so don't eat it. I'm like, all right, great.
That's a coach quality. That's a coach mentality.
It is.
Looking out for you.
Correct. But yeah, so I think that's cool.
Our last question comes from Heart of Kyber, who is a Liquid fan. We always see him in our replies. He's a great guy. He wants to know if you have a favorite match that you've casted.
I want to know if that's after Seto Kaiba. And I don't know if I've given you my Yu-Gi-Oh rant before.
Wait, but it's Kyber. Kyber. Isn't Kaiba Kai
BA?
BA?
Okay, so it's not. But I want to give you my Yu-Gi-Oh rant
Give me your
anyway.
story anyways.
Because you really, really made a meal of this one. Because that would have been the smoothest transition. And I thought we were going to yes and each other. But apparently that rule
No,
doesn't
I don't
exist
yes
anymore.
No.
But I always had a lot of sympathy for Kaiba.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, think about it this way. You're a man of stature.
Mm-hmm.
You've dedicated your life
Mm-hmm.
to collecting and being the best at this card game. And then you find a kid.
A real
hasn't-
short guy.
Yeah, that hasn't played the game for more than 2 weeks. That is playing off someone else's deck. And in the first 7 cards, top decks Exodia to beat your deck. We've all been top decked in cards. It's a pain in the ass. So I have a lot of sympathy for Kaiba. I can't believe he was made out to be a bad guy.
I can't believe you're rooting for the bad guy.
I can't believe he was made out to be a bad guy.
But
when Yugi Moto is just like the biggest top decky lucker dog ever running around in a card game.
you're
what was the
rooting for
question?
you're rooting for the villain.
What was the question? My favorite game I ever cast.
Go for the prodigy. I don't know. Go for the young guy trying his best.
My favorite game I ever cast. Honestly, like, I remember other people's casts way more.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite casting moment is actually the Deft What Was That moment. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but EDG versus LGD 2-2 going into, I think it was the summer play, end of summer, like qualifying for Worlds or whatever. Looks like LGD is about to win the team fights. PYL, Imp, you know, all these great players. And then Deft on Sivir turns around the team fight, and Pastry Time has the best voice break ever in the middle of a team fight. He just gives me a big, Deft, what was that? And like, I was just like, oh my God, like that gave me goosebumps, Pastry Time. My favorite game that I ever viewed was game 1 of MSI, I believe, was in 2016 was RNG versus CLG. The CLG team with like Pobelta and Darshan and those guys. And I was on the analyst desk with Kobe, and we were in the middle of this packed stadium, and we're just sitting there screaming our heads off. And it was to the point where, like, I'm obviously going for RNG because I was the LPL rep. Kobe is obviously bleeding, like he's cutting himself, and CLG logos are flying out everywhere at this point. And we were just screaming so loud that the producers were like, guys, this is a really long event. We don't want you to lose your voice. So if you just rein it in a little bit. But my favorite game I've ever been a part of, not casting, was actually Core JJ's run at Worlds.
Which year?
In North America.
Wait, which year though?
2016, I think, was North America Worlds.
2016.
Yeah, because there was this young, plucky, up-and-coming AD carry ruler who, like, I thought was really, really good. And Cuvée was playing Poppy into Jace, and all these things were happening. And I was like, maybe they're going to do it. And everyone was like, they're not going to do it. You know, SKT in 3. And I was like, no. Samsung, 3-2. And I made that prediction on the analyst desk. And obviously, it went 3-2 to SKT. But that event in, like... We did the big intro out the front of the Staples Center. We walked in while Zed was playing his set. The cube dropped. Everyone was going crazy. I'm on this analyst desk. And I just remember, like, you have, like, stages in your career where, like, you're like, okay, cool. This is my first studio cast. There's no crowd, but wouldn't it be great if a crowd was there? Then you have your first crowd cast, and you're like, this was great. Then I remember doing my first ever, like, Worlds cast, like, at Chicago Theater and stuff like that. And there's, like, people, like, screaming at a live venue. And I just remember walking out in the Staples Center and being like, what the fuck do you do after this? Like, are we casting in outer space or on the moon or something? Because I don't know if anything's going to top this. And I've still got a picture of on my phone of me, like, on the big screen of Madison Square Garden and Staples Center, because, like, to me as a sports fan, like, that's like the holy grail.
Did you do the H2K Samsung Galaxy match?
I don't know if I did the H2K one. I can't remember. I've done a lot of big games.
Because I would say I have a photo with Jat from SKT versus Rocks. That crazy series is the only series I've ever, like, gone to, but that was the coolest one ever.
Yeah, nice.
I think that's a wrap up. I think we're good to go. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jake. I hope you had a good time. I had a great time.
No worries. Thank you very much, Jerry.
No worries does not say you had a good time. That just means, like, you're welcome.
No worries. Ben, top 10 moments in my life.
Really?
No.
Compared to the Staples Center.
Much worse, but this was great.
I had a great time.
Yeah, no, I had fun.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure to give Liquid Plus a real checkout. I know I'm supposed to plug it, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to say to plug it. So Liquid Plus, Google it.
Have you used it?
Yes.
So get on there. Integrates with all your social media platforms. What we're trying to do is find out, like, who the, like, true, like, diehard Liquid fans are out there. And there's a bunch of really cool rewards that you can win through the app. So it's not one of those apps that's, like, really, like, ad influx and stuff like that. It's actually a genuinely good app. It's going to link everything up for you. It's going to give you, like, great ability to be able to reach out, be able to have, like, great experiences with Team Liquid.
Just take the fucking show, Jake. Just take the Team Liquid.
I've been trying to pitch that I think that the Bud Light show with Spawn would be great. It's even above my head, so we'll see how we go.
Well, thank you, everyone, for watching. We had a great time. We hope you had a great time, too. Tune in next time. We'll see you again, and have a great night. Thanks for watching.